TimeEnds Radio. Mark. I actually have an editor, so I have to do that because he yells at me if I don't. How are you? How you been?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Just dealing with, isolation and all the fun stuff. I've been in here for like 6 months. I haven't let. No, I'm kidding.
They're not letting you out.
They're not letting me out. I'm stuck in this studio 24/7. I wish. Oh, I wish.
Where is your studio? Where's your studio?
You know where? My God, that stadium, sports arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go outside and spit at it if I wanted to. That's how close I am.
Don't do that, but
No, I'm right off of if you take the 5, you get off at Rosecrans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like right off there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a spot called Rock and Roll San Diego. I've been. Let me tell you, I've had a lot of studios, and this is one studio that has so many like accommodations, and it's super nice, super secure. It's nice. Awesome. It's nice. So cool. So where are you at? Are you in San Diego, LA?
I'm in San Diego. I live over in Del Cerro, so I'm in my living room right now. So with a dog sitting next to me, if I'm to be honest. So.
Oh, what kind of dog?
Oh, he's a mutt. I found him on the side of the road, so he's kind of like he's a sleeping dog, but he's like a combination of a terrier and a schnauzer and I don't know, poodle or something.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love dogs. I'm a dog dude. I mean, I like cats too, but last dog I owned was a Great Dane.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, him and I would wrestle. I mean, literally wrestle. Like, I would say headlock and throw him in a headlock, and then he'd fight me off. But then if I said hug, he wouldn't fight me. It was the funniest thing.
How long did he live?
9 years. 9 years. We had to put him down. He had the look. It was one of those moments, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never cried so hard.
Yeah.
The effects animals have on us.
Oh, absolutely. They're a part of the family.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I totally believe in that. They make you laugh. Sometimes they upset you, but yeah, they're part of the family.
And I think during COVID, a lot more people are getting a lot more animals too, because they have to be home, especially people who live alone.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of friends who have adopted a dog or adopted a cat or whatever.
Yeah, no, they're great companions, and if you're by yourself, there's someone you can divulge all your secrets to.
That's right.
Were they gonna tell the dog or the cat's like, hold on a second, Facebook?
We sort of have to strike an arrangement at my house because I have a cat and a dog, and they don't necessarily like the fact that they are sharing me with the other ones. So they sort of have these like, I can stay here and I can stay here, and just don't look at me, and we'll pretend the other one's not, doesn't exist. So it's sort of like a little negotiation.
My favorite's when they actually get along and the dog tries to play with the cat, and the cat's like, I'm not having it, dude.
That's right. Don't
You're
touch
like
me.
3 times my size. And the dog's being like all playful, and the cat's like.
The cat will do that to me in the middle of the night if she wants attention and I'm asleep. I'll wake up and I'll have like a cut right here.
Ooh. Oh man. Oh. Has the cat attacked your feet?
No, she prefers my face.
I don't even know what kind of cat it was, honestly, but I was asleep, and I get, like you have your feet, right, and you have the covers.
Yeah. So
I moved my foot and it caught the cat's attention apparently, and all of a sudden I just feel the claws and just the mouth, and I wake up, and I just I had no idea what it was, and I did a kick. And I hear,
that's right.
I was like, oh my God.
I wanted to play. I think it was clear.
I don't know. That cat was out for blood. I was bleeding. It was crazy. That cat sunk its teeth in me. It was nuts. Totally nuts. All right. So I got a million questions. Let me ask you one though.
Sure.
So you're into PR, right?
Mm-hmm.
What led to that?
Well, my degree's in theater, so I
Uh-huh.
studied to be, an actress, which is a really, consistent job. So I got into arts administration right away in San Diego, and so I was working. I worked at the San Diego Performing Arts League, and then I worked at Lamb's Players Theater for many years. And I was performing sometimes, but my main job at that theater company was marketing and PR and group sales. Everybody there did a little bit of everything, and towards the end of my time there, a lot of different organizations in town had come to me and asked if they could outsource the PR component of what I did, for the arts, as and just sort of hire me to do just that, which I couldn't do when I was working full time there. But when I was no longer there, it sort of became clear that the community had a need for that. That enough organizations wanted to kind of line item PR, and I decided that's what I would focus on. So for the past 4 years or so, 5 years, that's what I've been doing. And so it sort of took, it grew out of the work that I did at Lamb's Players. And then I just sort of focused on that for a number of different arts organizations.
So you're doing it freelance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Clausen Communications is the name of my company. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a sole proprietor, and it's been fun because when you have multiple organizations that have some similar programming, sometimes you can very quickly sort of get a sense for, oh, well, this group is doing this and this group is doing this, and actually if they did it together, it would save resources, or this person's looking for this kind of programming, well, I know these two companies have it. It sort of makes it easier to collaborate. And for me,
That makes sense. That makes sense. um. Okay. So you've been doing that for four. You said 4 to 5 years.
yeah.
Wow. Is it? Are you super busy, or do you have like a certain schedule? How do you? I'm curious how that works because, like, with musicians, there's no schedule other than, oh, we're playing this night at this time. So I'm curious, like, do you have like a daily schedule, or do you kind of work when you need to, or?
Well, I have, I'm lucky in that I was sort of I've been in the community for a lot of years, so I know a lot of the arts organizations and had, because I had worked for the Performing Arts League, which was an umbrella organization for all the theater and dance companies, and then at Lamb's Players, which interacted with all the different theater companies. And so when I went out on my own, there were immediately a number of organizations that needed PR
Mhm.
help. So a lot of them were, every month. So it's like an annual contract. So I'm working a certain amount for them every month. So I have a number of clients like that. So that's sort of consistent, right? And then I have project clients. Sometimes like I'll get an independent film or something, and it'll just be like a 3-month contract, and then I'll slot that in. And then I handle PR for the San Diego International Film Festival as well. And so that is, I have them 10 months out of the year, but there's definitely 3 months like leading up to the festival that are they're half my time. So it's sort of
Mm.
like I just kind of have to look at my year and then say, well, where's my workload light? And then I can take on more clients, and where do I have to pull back, and then sort of juggle. And
Wow.
when can, and I perform as well. So sort of then when am I able to perform that if I have a lighter PR workload, then I could maybe do a play in there or a reading or something.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that next. Like, if you have time to do that. I mean, you answered my question. Um, it is it difficult to kind of like throw that in there? You're like, oh, I have a little bit of time, and then all of a sudden, like, maybe a client or an extra project shows up, and do you ever face that where you have to
Yeah, well,
pick one or the other?
you sort of have to decide what your availability is. So once I commit to something, I'm committed to it. So,
Mm,
for instance, I was asked to do a play. This is right before COVID, so it was supposed
mm,
to happen, and then it got shut down. But I was asked to do a play, and it was during a time that was right before my work with the festival would amp up. So I had ongoing clients, but I didn't have what I knew was my heaviest 3 months of the year. I knew that I had, if it went up in May and June, then I would be okay in time to gear up for the festival. And so then I commit to that time, and then I know I'm not taking on any more PR clients because I'm balancing that. So it's a
okay.
you just planning.
It's just, yeah, balancing and planning. I'm terrible at that. Like, sure, I'll do it. Yeah, I only have 9 hours left of my year.
But sometimes that I don't know, like it's not like I'm oh, in this minute I'm going to be doing this and this. It's, I mean, it does. If when you're working for yourself, this. So your time is your own. So if you've overcommitted, if you've got a lot to do, provided you are committed to doing them right, then
Mhm.
okay, so you stay up a little later or you get up a little earlier. You get it done, and then you learn sort of. Okay, well, that was too much, or or I need more to do to concentrate on.
What kind of plays do you like to do? Or is that even the right question? What kind of a theater actress are you?
Well, I think for a long time I wasn't. I have a daughter who's 19, so when she was younger, I wasn't doing as much. I did a lot before her, and then and now that she's older, I've started doing more again. But there was sort of a lull time in there as well, and I think I usually get cast in as a comedian, like it's in comedies. I
Mhm.
tend to get cast in that. But if I'm honest, I prefer dramatic roles. I
Oh,
That's my preference. So and I was just about to do right when COVID started. I was about to start rehearsal for Good People up at Oceanside Theater Company, which would have been a lovely combination of comedic and dramatic. And it takes place in South Boston, and I'm from Boston, so all the characters I very much felt like I understood, and I was excited to explore them. But then everything
oh,
shut down,
oh.
so everybody sort of had to, and and the thing about that too, with everything shutting down, is that people had to rediscover what creative looks like when you can't, when you can't do it the way you want to do it. You have to try doing things differently, you know.
Yeah, I had excuse me, I had a theater actor I interviewed not too long ago, and we're kind of talking about how theater, unfortunately, they don't. A lot of people don't go to watch theater or plays, I should say, not theater. Plays or shows because it's kind of like you grew out of that custom because like back in the day we had no movie theaters, we had no phones, like you'd have to go watch a play in order to be entertained. And I was saying like how I did a live score when I was in high school. I did 3 of them, and that opened my eyes to wow, I should do this like periodically, at least attend.
Yeah.
And one thing I asked this individual, and I'm going to ask you, how hard is it to just memorize 3 hours of lines? Like I can't. I mean, as a musician, I told the other individual like I have hundreds of songs memorized, but they're one subject. That's it. The other subject. You know what I mean? It's a little
Yeah.
different when I was reading a script. I'm like, there's no way I could do this. Like,
Well, I think it's probably more similar than you think, in that it's, I mean, it's storytelling, right?
Mhm.
And you tell a story with your music and your writing, and it's a story. It might not be words that the story is telling, but you're probably following, I'm guessing, some sort of storyline in your mind when you're playing music, or
Yeah.
it's making you feel a certain way, or you can hear it needs to go a certain way. And I think sometimes learning lines is the same way. I mean, is it harder the older you get? Does it get harder? Like when I was a teenager, I would read a play a couple times, and I knew it. So yeah, the logistics of it is harder, but I think you're also not just learning one word following another word. You're learning somebody's whole story, right? And
Yeah.
and it becomes, I think, more natural that way. But also, a lot, there's tricks like everybody has. I tend to attach lines to locations. Like that
Mm.
helps me tell the story. Like this part of the story is happening over here. This part. So I learn my lines, but also then once I get on stage, you're really sort of solidifying them to a spot on the stage, and which is a lot of how the brain works, right? Memorization
Yeah.
works. So.
Wow, that's cool. That's wow. I'm gonna write that down. Places. Yeah, I it's kind of weird because normally like I'm in front of someone and they can see what I'm doing, but I take notes.
There you go. There you go.
It's not like I'm on the phone or anything. I just like I'm literally taking notes. Um, uh, now, okay, so you get cast as comedies. Is it easier to act with comedy versus drama or even suspense or horror? or
I
it's just
I
different.
don't know as it's easier. I think, I mean, I probably get cast in comedies because humor is a big part of who I like, what I gravitate towards in people, and so that's probably how people in the community, how I know people, as we connect in humor. And
Yeah.
so, is it easier? I mean, it's humor is a lot about is humor is often about timing, so it's if you have the timing of the piece, then yes, the sort of they're built in there, the comedy is built in, but you also have to get that timing. I feel like drama has more like license to it to to change it and to change the timing of it to find the drama, whereas with some sorts of comedy it sort of is built in there, like the lines are sort of built to elevate in a way that bam, then it's going to be funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so I, I tend to enjoy, I enjoy drama more, I think.
Do you have to learn to? I mean, like, I'm not gonna say I'm a funny guy, but I'm just gonna say like I like humor, and
Yeah.
do you learn the timing, or do you feel it? Because like for example, a buddy of mine, and the producer, shout out to the midget. We have like this really crazy like dark comedy. Like we roast each other all the time,
Yeah.
and and when okay, so we're really well at doing it with each other. But once we're in a group, one of the individuals says something funny. I laugh, she laughs, no one else laughs because the timing is, you know what I mean? It's kind of, and we're
Totally.
like we don't care, like it's funny, but is that something that you learn or you feel? Like, is it something you learned in school? Is my question.
I think yes and yes, like to both of
Okay.
those,
Yeah.
because, and there's a third thing at play there. Like there's chemistry too, right?
Yeah.
Chemistry in comedy, in anything, like you and your two buddies, you probably have this sort of unspoken thing too. You can probably just eyeball them and start laughing because, and
Yeah.
definitely have people, a lot
Yeah.
of people in my life like that. And I tend to be drawn to that as well. So that's part of comedy. And that's part of comedy on stage. If you are working with those people who you can just look at them. I have one friend, and we've decided, I'm like, I can't do a play with you because if I'm on like we laugh just looking at each other in real life, it would be hard to do that on stage. But then I think there are certain things. I've done comedies before, and there's a director said to me, Frank Kirk actually, and he said to me, it was a timing thing, and I was working on a line, and he said, say that quicker. And I was like, oh no, but he's like, no, 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 say it too quick, say it. In the role, I was supposed to be about to faint, and I was supposed to say something like, I think I'm going to faint, I'm going to faint now. But it was just a timing thing. He's like, no, make it happen like immediately. So it
Hmm.
was kind of like, I think I'm going to faint. I'm like, it had to just happen mid. And
Oh, I see.
I
Yeah.
didn't feel that, and I wouldn't have done it that way, and it wasn't what I was doing. He's like, just do it, just do it. And I
Hmm.
did it, and it was, that was it. That was what it was. So that's an example sort of learned, like that's what the
Yeah.
director does, is they see the timing that you're maybe missing, and part of it is your gut, and then part of it is the chemistry of the people you're with, you know.
When you're performing live and you're gonna do the line, for example, like the director said, do it faster, right? But in the moment, based off of how things are going and the chemistry you have with everybody, have you ever faced where you don't follow those directions and you kind of just go with what feels natural with the environment?
Sure.
How
Well,
bad
well,
how bad do you get reprimanded for that?
Well, I mean, I think there's always room for a little bit of like depending on the piece too. Some
Right.
bits, if it's like a bit and you've worked with the director to time the bit so it's perfect, that's one thing. I wouldn't want to mess with that with anybody's, uh, vision or input on it. But then there's also that chemistry thing where it might something someone does might make you laugh more one night than another, or they might hesitate, and it might catch you different. So if you're just saying the words the same way every night, well, that's not really acting. Half of acting is reacting, right? So
Yeah.
if it's a little different, you're reacting a little different, hopefully. Not stepping on directorial advice. I mean, I really respect that process. And theater is fluid. It's not film. It's not, okay, that's the cut. That's not how it works. So
Yeah.
film's
Have you
different.
have you done film acting?
A little bit, actually during COVID, we came across this play at one of the company at Scripps Ranch Theater and Oceanside Theater Company. This play called Donna Orbits the Moon, and it was a one-woman show with a second one woman, but then a voiceover as well of a friend of mine. And Eric Popick had done it up in Oregon, and he said, "Oh, you guys should check this out." And it was a beautiful play, really beautiful play. And we filmed it instead because of COVID restrictions. We filmed it here on this couch, actually, here and in my bedroom. And so it was just the director, Candace Crystal, and masked up, and then Ted Live, the videographer and editor, and myself. They're masked, and I was far away from them. And this was towards the beginning of COVID. And
Yeah.
then we edited it and streamed it for both theater companies because we wanted to
Wow.
provide something. And that's what that's what we could safely share. That's the story we could safely share. So,
Are they planning on doing any? And like everything's online now and streaming and zooming. I
yeah,
mean, excuse me. Even here, we they do live streaming with like performances.
yeah.
Are they going to start doing that with theaters?
Well, there it doesn't make sense yet. It's all fluid. Like I'm actually part of the Theater Alliance. I don't know if you've heard about this, but
Mm-mm.
it's a wing of the San Diego Performing Arts League, and it started by sort of at the beginning of COVID, all the artistic directors in town getting together, just sort of a check-in. How you doing? How's it? And then it grew from there. And now we have, regular meetings of all the theater companies in town about issues that are addressing, the theater community. And we have roundtables every month on, our last one was on anti-racism and allyship in theater, and we have all different size theater companies presenting how they're responding to conversations that are happening and should be happening right now, and what's theater's role in that. Anyways, all that to say, the conversation of streaming and what's safe and what's not safe is really being approached as a community. I think, I mean, everybody has their plan but we're all talking. And I don't think anybody wants to, you don't want to do something that's going to make people feel unsafe, or that you're not respecting rules, right? I mean, we were supposed to. I was actually supposed to be in a live stream production of A Christmas Carol in December, and we canceled because it was just when we had gone into a higher tier, and when we planned it, it would have been. I mean, we were going to be very careful about everything. Everybody was going to be 6 feet apart. It was going to be streamed, filmed, and taking all the precautions that were required. But at a certain point, it was like, how important is it that we do this if it's making anybody uncomfortable right now? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
as the COVID restrictions were changing, we said we'd rather hold out until it makes sense. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think at some point, but I don't think it's right now when things are skyrocketing out there.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I asked because I mean, they do live streaming here. It's the band and the crew working,
Yeah,
doing the film crew. The film and the lighting. Everyone's separate. But I just got well. I'm getting certified, but I just passed my test for COVID compliance officer to
oh,
to
great.
be on set. So I don't know. Do you think that's something that would help you guys to have, like if you guys did do live theater, because I mean people are filming,
Yeah,
like
yep,
I just shot a documentary in January, and because this year they're requiring all sets to have COVID compliance officer, which
yep.
Alan Brockington. You
So,
know,
oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, he's my COVID compliance officer.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Alan, I need you to take my temperature. Max, pull your pants up.
That's great.
But is that like an option to have something like that with
I would imagine. I would imagine so. You should actually sit in on one of these meetings. It'd be interesting to hear.
I would love to actually.
Yeah,
That'd be
I'll send it
great.
to you. There's one this week. I'll send you a link to it. And
Okay.
yeah, I think it's all sort of going to develop in that direction where everybody wants to have something that where is following state guidelines, but is also respecting their audience. And theater audiences are older audiences, and that
Yeah.
and I mean, streaming versus in person, those are two different conversations anyways. But they are kind of interwoven in that we're asking our audience, which is historically older, to then switch to a technologically based option for enjoying theater, which is asking a lot of an audience too, right? So everybody's having to kind of have this learning curve. Um,
Yeah.
but I think very early on, I sort of felt about theater and about, because everybody's artists' first responses were, "This isn't the same. This isn't the same. This isn't theater. It's not the same." And so, and then the negative that's associated with that. But the reality is, I mean, for me, is I think you kind of have to say, no, it's not the same. It's not the same. And like, what's next, right? You can't like say, how can we make this experience be live theater, because it's not. You know what I mean? But you can
Yeah.
explore different things and different ways of telling stories and touching your community.
Well, you know what? Uh, it's kind of tough because the way I view it's like we've been in this for how long? It's like it is what it is. We just gotta enjoy what we have because you never know what's gonna happen. And I don't know, maybe going into the angle that you could treat it like Saturday Night Live, where you know it is live, so you will see them make mistakes, which
Yeah.
or play out a character, and the audience will, and they can still, interact and engage, through chatting or, I know it's different, but it's an option versus nothing.
Right.
You
And
know.
we did actually, I should backtrack about streaming. We did do some streaming. I'm sort of like looking at it from today's date, but we did do some live streaming from the stage at Oceanside Theater Company, and
Mm.
followed all the guidelines that were in place at that time. We had a band. We live streamed a band and singers, and then and yeah, I can see us doing stuff like that again. We got film equipment for at Scripps Ranch Theater that's used by both Oceanside and Scripps Ranch, and use that to film, Donna Orbits the Moon and other ones eventually. It's just that right now it's so elevated that I'm, we're not doing any live streaming right now, but I could see us doing it again once things, you know, it,
Yeah, no,
that,
I meant towards like the audience. The older crowds are like, oh, I'll just wait until it goes back to live. Well, what if it doesn't for like 3 years?
yeah.
Why don't you just enjoy kind of like, okay, like for example, normally I have you sitting in front of me where I could throw a pencil at you, but now we're doing the Zoom thing and
You could still throw a pencil like at the camera, and it would come like at me. Yeah, try. Go. See? Just like I'm right there.
No, my only complaint. Uh-oh. My computer's. When I threw that, it hit something and ejected my hard drive.
No.
Oh boy.
Did it really?
Actually, okay. So just so you kind of understand my setup, I have a hub in front of me.
Okay.
What happened was, there's buttons on top, so my pen hit the button and turned off. Yeah. That really just happened. No. It was worth it.
I'm like,
It was worth it. What was I saying?
oh, people,
yeah.
if you couldn't go back to theater for 3 years.
Yeah. No, so like for example, I have this place set up for a live podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even had one of my coworkers, old coworkers, set up the lighting for me.
Nice.
Right? And I just ruined my own camera. Let me just fix that. I like showing off the studio. Anyways, and then we got back into a lockdown. I'm like,
Yes, yeah.
So I said, you know what? I'm just gonna Zoom. Like I'd rather have the shows to continue and have content than sitting doing this.
And I think there's a lot of that happening with people where it's like, well, I've got to pivot, right? Which ultimately, not like you have to find lemonade with everything. However, like pivoting and learning how to pivot is something that's going to serve people always, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that no, you can't do what you want how you want to, but you can still do, and you can still, do you remember what it was like the first couple times we did like if you did any like Zoom presentations and you've got audience members like trying to figure out their, and,
Yeah.
and like that's changed, right? So that learning curve has happened, and there's nobody doing that anymore, or figuring out how to keep Zoom bombers from coming into like all that sort of growth period. I mean, it's happened, and that's something that we as performers, as podcasters, as audience members, like have grown into in the past 9 months. So
I have a story for you.
yes,
I had one of those. What'd you call them? Zoom bomber?
yeah,
The
yeah,
one that would
that's
come
one.
in and start doing, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, they walked into at the wrong Zoom channel at the wrong time. It's like when they showed up, I was like, oh fuck yeah, and I was like, hi, how's it going? And I put them on the spot, and I kept like, oh, what are you gonna show me? Yeah, okay, what
I
else?
see that.
Hold on, let me record this. Hold on, and the person was like, and just left. I don't know what they were trying to do. It was the funniest thing. It's kind of like when I get those prank calls.
Right.
Normally, everyone's goes send the voicemail. I'm like, no, hello, can I help you? Yes, hello. Like I love messing with them. So
That's
when I
funny.
heard about that, I was like, oh, please come into my Zoom
Yeah,
channel.
come into my room. Let me play with you.
Oh yeah,
Let me play with you.
I totally welcome that.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
um, so one thing I learned, people that do acting or music or film acting, they have other talents. Did you not? Do you like sing? Do you write anything? Is there anything else that you do other than dramatic acting?
I've done a lot of voiceover over the years, so that's something I did a lot in my 20s and 30s, and now there's some coming back to, and also some like I'll do readings of things. Like I have, okay, you're about to get joined by another animal here. I see a cat entering the picture, so heads
Yeah,
up.
kitty, kitty, kitty.
but but
I got a pet named Alf.
there we go. Um, but also, there's some of my clients, my PR clients, are also clients that I perform for or with, and they do a variety of different things, like Write Out Loud, which is a organization with a mission to like sort of tell stories out loud in all different programming around the city. And so they're doing a thing coming up here in the next. I'm going to get the name of it for you.
Ooh, that's
Um,
awesome.
it's called mm, 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 the Decameron Project, and it's a project where they ask people to submit stories about what happened about like COVID experiences, and San Diego writers to submit that,
I think
and
I
then
have heard of. Yeah.
yeah, and then 100 of them are going to be showcased on websites and stuff around town, and then 10 of them are going to be performed. So I'll be performing one of the top 10 of those. So I do readings like that as well, and the voiceover stuff has been, I did a weasel with attention deficit disorder was the role that I played actually. For
Can you do it real quick? I gotta hear this.
oh my gosh. So I think we better go to the. No, it was very that kind of a thing. But,
That's awesome.
so, but a lot. Yes, I mean everybody who is a performer usually has some kind of, you know, vocal variety fun thing they do. I sing, not. I mean, I sang as that character. You wouldn't want to like hire me to be your. You wouldn't want to pay to listen to me sing unless it was a character voice that was just.
Can we get a contract for one night for her to sing?
That's right. That's right.
Just I don't care, whatever the money is.
That's right.
We'll
Get her.
figure it out.
Get her to sing. Although I'm a little obsessed with the King George song from Hamilton.
Really?
Yes, yeah, I want to perform that. It's a man's role, and I don't sing, but I still want to perform it. So someday.
But you mean like sing with your natural voice, or would you do like a voiceover?
I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll. So,
So voiceover. So do you do you have multiple characters you do, or just like whatever comes to mind or whatever?
well, whatever they're hiring you for, So sometimes
Okay.
it's just a regular commercial sort of a regular commercial selling something, and you're just the VO for it. And then sometimes it's
see.
a character, and they want, I've done some video game stuff where you're suddenly playing a little kid, or you're playing a frog or whatever, So it's kind of whatever they have, and then they'll direct you, no, higher pitch or lower pitch, or no, now I just want your voice, or I want a dialect, or I did, another thing actually I did last summer, which was super fun and I had never done before, was I was hired for Comic-Con, and it was for the week, and it was Amazon Prime's they had this big, they took over a whole street corner down during Comic-Con, and they were showcasing 3 of their new shows, and one of them was Carnival Row. And so they did like a improvisational interactive thing with actors where all the Comic-Con people would come in, and then they would experience this like semi-scripted, semi-unscripted experience for Amazon Prime, which was so cool. That was really fun. It was so all British characters and fairies, and I was a cop. I was a British Bobby.
But that was but that was only in the moment. It wasn't like they didn't film it.
They did actually. They filmed it for promotional stuff. I can send you that if you want to see it.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, so it was sort of a live, experience. So all the attendees of Comic-Con, but so yeah, I think actors have a variety of stuff they end up doing because something like a gig like that comes into town, and they suddenly need a bunch of actors.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if you answered this already, but you did voice.
Oh, sorry, that's me almost dropping something.
All right, I won't ask. I'm sorry. Did you did voice acting before or after theater acting?
At the same time, actually.
Okay.
Because I went to school for theater, and then I moved to LA, and then I came down to San Diego pretty quickly, and then I've been here doing theater acting and started voiceover pretty soon after that. And I used to do sort of the, on-air campaigns. KPBS, when they're like fundraising and they have on-air people.
Yeah.
So I do that too, which is another kind of, it's all acting in one way or another.
So why'd you leave LA so quick?
I think I was, honestly, I think I wasn't mature enough yet, or wasn't, I just graduated college and moved 3,000 miles cross country and was living in LA. I think it was a lot, honestly, I was maybe 23 or something. And, and my mom was down here at the time. And so she was sending me all of this theater stuff from San Diego. She's like, there's a lot of theater down here, honey. There's a lot, and I came down and there was, and it is, and I've been here ever since. So I go up there now for stuff, and I have work I sometimes do up there. But yeah, I think that would be my reason. It was just I was young,
Yeah, I'm actually happy I left. That's why I ask.
How long were you up there for?
Oh, like majority of my life.
Oh, really?
At this point. But I ironically, I left. I've been trying to leave California, to do other things, and I left. Then I came back because I had an opportunity to have I had a record contract with a band that I had here. Yeah, someone got a hold of our demo, and I said, and I'm out. And I went to New York, and my singer's like, hey, man, you should come back. So a year and a half later, I came back, and I've been here since. But, coming to San Diego and seeing the opportunities here really, what's the word? It opened up my eyes and made me realize, there's a lot more than just L.A.,
Oh, yeah. And yeah. I think that was part of it too, on that, when you graduate from college with theater degree anyways, it's sort of like, at that time, I thought, oh, you go to New York or you go to Los Angeles, which is not accurate. There's beautiful theater communities all over the country. But I think just sort of a younger perspective at the time was where you should go. And so I did, but you can find, in your industry too, you can find communities in lots of places.
That's true. I spoke with an individual that moved from where's she from? Milwaukee? I don't remember. And she moved to LA to make it as a singer. And I said, I think I'm not saying you should leave LA, but I'm saying you would have a better chance making it in a place that's not so heavily populated with the entertainment industry. And then she was like, I think you're right. And I'm sorry she listened, but she listened to me, left, and she's, starting to grow, which was, luckily it was good advice I gave.
That's right. Well, she found a place that was a comfortable place for her to be. That's part of it too.
Yeah, no, I just, because I learned from, because I read, biographies of musicians and a lot of them don't make it in LA. They don't. Or New York or Florida, like the major, they're from small towns no one hears about, and I was like, I think that's the trick. So going to a small town and blowing up there and you'll get noticed. And it worked for some, you know. Um
Yeah. Well,
she was
I think for a lot of artists, I mean, your craft is it's about learning. It's not like suddenly you go to school and you graduate and you've learned everything you need to know about being a musician, or you've learned everything you need to know about being an actor. That's the rest of your life, having experiences and classes and performances to learn that, and you can do that anywhere, And I think there is that sort of I think that's with maturity, that's something that you learn, or maybe you're taught, like the business of the business of being an artist, which is, I think, was not as focused on when I was in college, but hopefully is now, where okay, now I have this degree, like how do I
Yeah.
keep going,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, instead of like, cool, you learned everything, go figure it out. It's like,
right,
why don't you
right,
give me some sort of lead, or
yes, yeah,
or I feel like that is something they should train you on, how to, you know um how to get your feet wet, how
yeah,
to, you know what I mean, instead of like, cool, you learned everything, go figure it out, you
yeah.
know yeah, that's
But San Diego is great for for theater and stuff. I think it is very much a community. As far as once you know a certain amount of people, you sort of know a lot of the stuff that's going on in town, and who to ask if you want to be involved in something. And it's a very welcoming community too. I think, like
oh yeah, absolutely.
when there's new people here. I mean, I very much want to meet new people and say, yeah, oh yes, you would be a great asset for this organization. I want to see that happening. And especially working with Theater Alliance, I'm one of the ambassadors with them now, and I'm really seeing a lot of that with all different size theater companies in town, all sort of just wanting to support the efforts of each other, and that's nice to see. It's nice to see.
Yeah, I have to say it is true. Um well, my when coming to San Diego has been, meeting individuals. It's been a pleasure, and just getting to know everybody in their, oh, this is so and so, this is, they can do this, they, or the networking is crazy here. It's not like L.A. where, hey, how's it going? Oh, hi.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. Like it's still like that. And out here it's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And like people want to talk to you. It's
Yeah.
it's it's it's
Yeah.
it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's very tight community, and it's
Yeah.
it's nice.
It is, and not tight in a way that is exclusive. I don't think. I think it's in
Oh
a
no,
supportive way,
it's
and
yeah.
also a community that with a lot of the activities or the things that have happened this last year with George Floyd, and
Yeah.
sort of the racial coming to be finally be addressed, sort of, or start to, or whatever, that's been happening. It's been good to see that in the theater community as well, because you see it's there are people who have been hurt, there are people within our own community, experiences that have happened, and as a community, people are really listening to, and you're seeing people enact change, like even in the 9 months of since COVID. I'm seeing, because you're having sort of, this is a little bit of a change of subject, but because we're all on Zoom, right? It's giving us an opportunity to connect with people that we might not connect with on the regular. Do you know what I mean? As a theater community, I might not see the heads of 40 different theater companies every week or every couple of weeks or something. I might bump into them individually, and then a couple of events in a year, I'll see them all or whatever. But we're seeing each other on the regular. And so when something like Black Lives Matter is taking place, and the conversations are taking place both on a large level and on a small level within our personal communities, within our work communities, with suddenly you have a weekly face-to-face with all the people who are the leaders in your community, which means you have these opportunities for bigger conversations to take place, and then and to hear people's experiences, some that I might, as a white woman who's lived here for 20 something years, I might not have experienced or even knew were taking place, right? But you get to hear them, and then you have the people who are in decision making positions hearing them, and
Hmm.
conversations starting, and people getting angry, and then people not getting it, like it's happening. And that's all circling back to it being a community that supports itself. It isn't a community that isn't perfect, but it is still listening. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
that has meant a lot to me.
This might be a bold statement, but it is something that I've thought about throughout the past few months. As tragic as a lot of things has happened, do you feel like everything that has happened with the pandemic, politics, I'm gonna leave it at that, and yeah, I know, and quarantine and everything that's happening. Do you think, or what's your opinion? Do you feel like us being forced to be in this situation has actually, I guess the right word is, humanized us, because we're not so busy looking at the Black Mirror. We're actually engaging with each other. Like you just said, every week you're meeting with people that you would see a few times a year, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, do you think it's kind of a blessing, or?
You know, in a way, yeah. I hate to use that word only because like so many people are so devastated right
Yeah.
now, and I recognize how lucky I am and that I haven't been ill and I have been able to get by, and I'm not worrying about a next meal, and so inclusive of that, like there's so much horrible people are experiencing so many horrible things. And yes, I think some good things are going to come out of it. I think I was just talking to somebody about this morning, that we sort of get into this fast pace of life, which is, and we normalize behaviors and normalize expectations that I don't think are necessarily good for us, or not good for me. I can only speak for myself. You asked about me, my client load, and how I balance things, and in hindsight, like sometimes you're just doing a lot of things if you want to be responsible to all the things that you've taken on as responsibilities. And I'm a parent, and then you're kind of you can operate in this high level of getting things done sometimes, which doesn't leave room for um, other kinds of growth, I think. And I think the pandemic, for somebody like me, and this is coming from a position of the privilege of being able to enjoy some downtime, um, it has allowed me to sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, this is important. My health is important. The fact that I was sleeping, 4 hours a night, that's probably wasn't a good thing. Like it's given time to pause, on what you've normalized in your life, but also on connection. I mean, my whole business, Clausen Communications, the PR component of what I do, my sort of tagline is connecting the community, which I am all about connection and how people can serve each other. But uh, being really busy and going from one thing to another can be a very disconnected way to live as well. And I think people are connecting in other ways. I'm on a Zoom call with my family. I'm very close with my family, but not logistically. I've got Florida and Washington State. And so now, since the pandemic started, we've had a family Zoom every Sunday morning. And it's like my favorite hour and a half of the week with my siblings and my nieces and my nephews and my parents. And I'm like, whoa, it's not like Zoom just suddenly was created during the pandemic, right? Why
Yeah.
haven't we been doing this for the past 10 years? This is amazing. So I think, yes, I think there will be some things that come out of it that will be good. A recognition of what's really important in your life, how you want to spend your time, how you don't want to spend your time. I hope. I hope for that.
Yeah, I had an interview where this individual has a business, and they they felt the crunch, but they said, it's not about me. What can I do for the community? And that kind of made me realize, even though some people are okay, a lot of people that are okay take the initiative to help those that aren't. And I've been noticing that a lot. and I think, as tragic as a lot of this stuff has been, I think it's in a way it's humanizing us, except for the little politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like, like you were saying, understanding what you spend your time on. Like in the beginning, I was kicking and screaming, like, I gotta go driving. I would literally drive because I was so not used to being put. Because I'm here, I'm over there, I'm in LA, I'm here, whatever. and I'm kind of used to it, and it's nice. And it made me realize you need to chill out, and it's slow down, and I think it's a great thing. And it's unfortunate, like you mentioned, like how come we haven't been doing Zoom this whole time?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unfortunate that it takes a tragedy to learn something as beneficial as Zoom.
Yep.
And yeah, I think we all had those experiences where, oh, I'm doing this because this happened, or
Right. And also the feeling like you need to, or not need to, want to, um, because we're experiencing this collective cultural shift and struggle. Like, you want to be connecting to the people who you're concerned about, right? Like the
yeah,
people in your life who might be. And so I do find myself connecting more to, like, I'm believe it or not, for a PR person, I'm not on the phone. Prior to COVID, I wasn't on the phone all that much. A lot of what I did was behind my computer, and so it wasn't, chatting with people on the phone all the time. I'm on the phone more now, but it's quite lovely. Like, I have this, and I have regular walking times with the closest friends in my life,
mm-hmm.
so we can safely be together, catch up, be outside, do our, and I think there's a lot more of that kind of connection happening for me and for a lot of people I know, because you want to make sure everybody's okay. The people
Yeah,
you love are okay, and so you can kind of get caught in normal life in that, like, what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, and the important relationships can be like, oh, they're fine, and what's next, I so yeah, that's one of my hopeful takeaways.
do you think eventually you'll kind of go back to that old, I'm gonna say habit, but that old routine?
This is exactly the conversation I was having with one of my friends this morning. No, I don't think I will. I mean, I think I had already hit a shift where, I mean, there was a few years where I was just doing mostly PR work because I was building my business, right? And I needed to get it, to a level that could sustain me and my family. And so it was harder to do other projects that might bring me a different kind of enjoyment or a different kind of experience, or step back from that kind of workload. And I'd already sort of decided, oh, if I lose a client here, or if this project ends, I'm not going to fill it. I'm going to leave that spot open, and I'm going to look for more artistic opportunities and they'd been happening, they'd been.
Mm.
So I think when things are back to normal, I'll still have to make a living, and I still am. And I think I have sort of more, a little bit of a mental shift of, you don't always have to be doing, you can be enjoying your family. I mean, my daughter's goes to SDSU, but she's home. She's remote learning. And so, we always connected anyways, but I I've had a chance to have more of that. And I want more of that, And so, and same with friends, like that whole walking with friends on every, I have different days of the week that I see different people outside walking around. Will I still do as much of that? Well, probably not. Well, I'll have more events that I need to be at night that I don't have now. But yeah, I hope I keep that kind of connection with the people that I care about.
Yeah, yeah, that's one thing I'm hoping that especially I'm speaking for myself, that I don't go back to being busy. Even though I'm still busy, but it's kind of like, it's very relaxing right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's different. It's kind of like life pulled the e-brake on me again. It's like, okay, dude,
Slow down.
slow down, and enjoy the moment.
You kind of see examples of that, like in a macrocosm, but then in a microcosm as well. And I use my daughter by way of example, because she can get very buried in school, which is, what you're supposed, it happens in college. And she had a full semester that was really busy, and she was working a lot on schoolwork. And then she just had this month off, and she didn't have a job because COVID. And so she was home with a month off and no school. And I just was kind of like, what's this going to look like?
Oh man.
And right. And I just watched, and suddenly she's playing piano, and she's figuring out songs, and she hasn't played piano in a while. And then she's writing. and then she's knitting, and then all these sort of artistic things that she's done before, but when she's buried in school, she's not exploring as much. She's exploring her music, she's exploring her writing, and so she's sort of this microcosm of, well, yeah, that's what happens when that's when they always say that's when creativity is at its best, is when your brain gets bored. Your brain gets bored, and it starts working in different ways. Okay, well, I don't think we give ourselves enough time for our brains to get bored anymore. And it makes me sound like a 90-year-old. She's like, we don't have any time to think about those exciting things like swinging on a swing. But it's true, right? That's sort of how it used to be. You'd have a lot of free time, and then you'd figure out interesting things to do. Anyways, I see that with my daughter, and I see it with myself. I see it with myself, having that downtime. So I think ultimately allowing yourself to not be doing actually gets you to a more creative place. For someone like you who's a creative, or myself, that's actually a good place to be.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
What do I do next? Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Random question: when was the last time you were actually on a swing?
Oh, let's see. I can't remember, so it must be a long time. Oh no, I live down the street from Hearst Elementary School, and there's swings in the kindergarten area, which is usually locked up, but every once in a while somebody doesn't lock it up, and I always check, and then if it's unlocked, then I sneak in, and there's swings in there. And so so that was probably within the last few months or so. Now they're never going to leave it open anymore. Me like
I know,
crazy lady in the
after they
neighborhood
hear
on the
this.
swing.
Well, I was gonna tell Ludi edit this out, but he's not here. I'm so used to be like, hey, can you?
That's right.
Do you play any instruments? I didn't ask you that.
I
Other than
do.
singing. Oh.
I think, but it's been a long time. Although I've pulled it out during COVID, is violin. So I used to play violin.
My eyes just lit up. You used to play violin?
I didn't say violin well. I just said violin. But I played from like 7 to 14, and then I sort of got pretty buried in theater, and I let violin go. But it's still, when you play an instrument that young, where it's in there. And when my daughter started playing stuff, I was like, hey, can I pull out the violin and kind of try to, she's like, sure. And so then I'd try to just play along with her or whatever. And my fingers remembered, or my brain, or my whatever remembered stuff. And so I'll hopefully do some more of that too.
When was the last time you played it?
Years. I mean, it'd been years. I think, all right, I played till I was 14, then I hardly played at all. Then I played at my grandmother's funeral when I was maybe in my mid 20s. And then
Oh man.
I really haven't since then.
Oh God. Next question. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's violin. It'll take time. I was going to say, when she just go grab it and give us a little show really quick.
Oh my gosh, you don't want that.
I would love that. But you have to tune it. And...
It's out of tune right now. I'm sure it would take too long to tune it.
Yes. Any other instruments, or? I
can play a couple songs on the piano. I can play a couple songs on the guitar. I can make a flute. Sorry, there's a bug that's visiting me. That's right.
He wants to be on the podcast.
I have a flute that I can make sound come out of, but I wouldn't say really play it. But I can play a few songs on guitar, not on the piano.
Just to let the record show, she probably shreds on guitar and piano.
No.
She's like, I play a little.
No.
So you said your website is Clausen Communications?
I don't have a website, actually.
You don't? Okay.
No, Clausen Communications is my company. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn and everything, but I have had multiple people ask me that. Why don't you have a website? It's like, because I have more work than I know what to do with right now. I don't have the time to build a website so I haven't needed it for promotional reasons. I haven't needed it. So maybe that's a lazy man's way out. But I had been, since I started Clausen Communications, I've been busy, which I'm super grateful for. And so I haven't done that, but eventually,
Well, I mean, you're on social media, so it works.
Yes.
It works. Do you have a Twitter account?
Pardon?
Do you have a Twitter account?
I don't. Well, I do, but I don't really use it. I have
a random question. I was curious because everyone has a Twitter account.
Yes, I do have one, but I don't really use it very much. I have an Instagram account, I have a Facebook account, and um, those are the two I mostly use.
So do you do most of your marketing through social media or just
Marketing for
networking?
myself or
Yeah,
marketing
for yourself.
for myself?
Yeah.
That's mostly, honestly, word of mouth. Like
Mm.
most of the jobs that I have, for instance, when I first started my own company, I did some project work for Signet Theater. They were building their group sales department, and they said, can you build it? Just build it out for us. And so I did that, and that was just sort of towards the very beginning of when I started, and then the San Diego International Film Festival went to them and said, we're looking for a PR person. And they're like, oh, Susan just started her own thing. She's been doing PR for years, and she can help you. And she does multiple, other things. And so
Wow.
that's how I got that job. And then a number of things have happened that way. Like when I first started my own business, I got a call from a newspaper person who all my newspaper contacts knew that I was going out on my own. And so one of them called me and was like, hey, you're out on your own now, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, I have a client for you. I was like, great. It was like a week after I left Lambs. And so then I got my first job that way. Then someone on that board of directors was like, oh, what you just did here, what you just, the promotion and the getting the people here, what you just did here, I want you to do it here at this organization. So it's very much, the community becomes smaller in nonprofit and in theater, and then film. And then, Joey, I work with Joey Travolta as well. And I met him through the San Diego International Film Festival. He brought one of his films to the festival, and I had some news hits, some television news hits. And I was like, do you think Joey would do them? They said, well, and they connected the two of us, and we worked together all during the festival. And, he's very East Coast, we've got the same sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so we got along very well. And at the end of it, he was like, we should keep working together. I'm like, yeah, we totally should. And then that week he called, he's like, okay, I got this thing, so my business has been very organic in that way. And I do truly feel like, every organization or person doesn't need the same thing done for them in a
Right.
PR capacity. Organizations have different things they're already handling themselves that I might do for one organization, but I won't for another because they've already got it covered. So I really believe you don't want to just sort of come in and say, I do this and I'm going to put this on top of your organization. It's more about meeting people and seeing what they need and seeing if you're a fit. And sometimes being comfortable to say, I'm not a fit. And I've done a lot of that, actually. People will come to me and they'll say, oh, we want to hire you to do what you do. And I'm like, you don't want to hire me yet. You want to hire a development person. You want to fundraise. That's what your organization needs, right? And so that sort of having that kind of organic feel about what I do in that capacity, because I do truly care about the nonprofit organizations that I work for, and I want them to be getting what they need. And that's not always me, right? And so, but because I am honest about that, I think it's organically led to people feeling comfortable asking, you know what I mean? And then,
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. Wow. That's incredible. I mean, word of mouth and just networking. When I used to teach, actually I still teach. I teach a class, privately, once a week. I always taught dude, network. Just say hi, how's it going? I mean, like Alan, hi, how's it going? I'm Alan Buckington.
He's great.
Because of that, he is the hardest working man right now in the business here in San Diego. It's a long story, I'll tell you later. But he everybody knows him. I took him to TJ. No lie. We went to TJ. It was the funniest thing ever. He went international. We shot a film. When we came back, I got stopped by Border Patrol, and the lady, the patrol officer, you can tell she was fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, "Oh, you don't have a passport. You just have your ID." I'm like, "Oh, great. Okay, I see what you're gonna do." So I said, okay, hold on a second. I'm like, hey, Alan, they're gonna take me really quick, and then Alan just, what? And I was like, that's my friend Alan. He's with me. And then she looked at me and she felt like, oh, I'm the biggest asshole right now. I'm like, Alan, do you want to come with us or do you want to wait outside? I'm like, please say something. He's like, I'll wait for you outside. I'm like, thanks, Alan. Thank, thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Throwing me under the bus, man.
Yeah. So anyway, so I did that whole thing. Even the other guys were like, why are you making us do the extra work? So when I got out of being detained, I found Alan, and he was at a distance. And every time I see him, I'm like, Alan T. And he turns around, and all of a sudden I hear these guys go, is that Alan Brockington? Oh, my God. And random people, like, hey, man. And he's like, hello. And he's like, oh, we went to high school with you. And I'm like, you are so popular. Everybody knows you. I take him everywhere. Seriously, he's like my to-go-to guy. And I'm like, Alan, we're going to go here. Okay, he gets in the car. We drive, and they're like, hey, Alan. He's like, hi, how's it going? I'm like, how do you know this person?
Well, it is. It's, that expression, I think, is sometimes used like in a negative sense, like it's who you know type of thing. But I look at it as kind of a positive, not like who am I going to schmooze up to so I can get stuff from them, not like that's often how that expression is used, but more about like the more people you are know and are comfortable with, and then the easier it is to say, oh, you're doing this and you're doing like it, to connect people, right? And sometimes that's you, sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's somebody else, but and then the more interesting things you get to do too. I think, what I was supposed to do, actually, I was supposed to this summer, before COVID hit, I was going to go teach with Joey for the summer and teach his camp. And that would have been something completely new for me. I mean, it's not PR, it's not acting.
So much fun.
However, it's something that, I was, a lot of the skill set was acting and but something completely different. And I think meeting lots of new people and seeing what they do and seeing what speaks to you and everything does leave room for other opportunities to open up like that too, where, I would love to teach. I mean, so yes, let's go learn how to do that,
Alan has introduced me to more individuals in the industry than anyone else in my entire life. It's interesting. And it's not like, introduce me. It's like we just meet individuals and we just end up talking, and we'll leave and I'll be like, how do you know them? Oh, I met them at the film. That's a director of this film. Oh, you know what I mean? I just met someone that's in the industry, and it's amazing. Like,
and he probably does he remember very well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Watch what you tell him.
That's fair.
It's haunted me.
Well, you remember
4
that
years
time
later.
you said she was a
Alan, I told you not to repeat that. That was in Mexico. Oh man, dude, this such an awesome interview. This was fun.
It was really fun. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for doing this. I have one more question. When, it's not a fair question, but in the near future, is there a performance that you'll be doing soon?
Yeah, well, the next thing I'm doing is the Decameron project, which is where writers in San Diego wrote a story about their experience with the pandemic, and then 10 of them will be performed, and that's Write Out Loud, and is going to be working on that with the San Diego Public Library and Writers Inc., I believe. I hope I got it right, and the La Jolla Historic Society. And so I'll be performing that, and that will be filmed. As far as a play is concerned, like I said, the one I was going to do got put on hold during COVID. So I hope that someday that comes back. That's Good People with David Lindsay Abair, and that was going to be at Oceanside Theater Company. So, but I don't know as that would be a candidate for being filmed per se or not. So I don't know what the next performance, other than some of these readings and that have come along the way. I'd be wide open to doing more film stuff, because that is opening up, and I did a little bit of that since we've been shut down, and
Mhm.
so we shall see. I'll
Well,
keep you
let me know.
posted.
I'll definitely be there.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Everybody have it. Susan here. And we will see you guys next week.